Here's our seeds, and these are cut off from yesterday's diggings. Would this work to get 2 harvests? The answer is yes. You can get 2 harvests. They will grow. Hey, I don't know if you can hear me. It's windy out, but it is cold. It's a cold November, less than a week away from Thanksgiving. And we have an exciting day. Ooh, that seat's cold and hard. Since the weather has turned frozen, our potatoes have died off. You can see that. And this year we were doing an experiment to see if we could get 2 harvests of potatoes in 1 year. Can we do that even though the growing season is 90 to 120 days? And if you remember, we harvested back on the end of July. We planted then the next day some more potatoes in here after we had cleared this off, removed the tarp, doubled up the boards so we had a higher garden. So right now we're going to, I don't know if the ground's too frozen or not, but we're going to attempt to dig them up. I should have done it last week, but I wasn't here last week, so I couldn't do that. But we're going to attempt to do that now. We'll start right here, and we're going to dig where we see the plants. Right here. Yeah, the ground is frozen. Probably once we get below this first layer, it probably isn't froze. However, I could be wrong. The question on this was, can potatoes bring about a harvest even if there is not any blossoms? Hey, look, there's worms, baby worms. Okay. And there's big worms too. There's plants, so and the answer is yes. That's a nice potato. Another one. Not too bad a size. That's a nice one. These are actually so far better than what I was getting before in July. But I found the amount of earth matters a lot. I would hope there's more than 2 out of that plant. Okay. Here's one. You better collect them right away because you might be burying them again. Okay, let's go to the next one. Wow. It's a nice worm. Let's bury him. He's going to freeze to death. There's a bunch of nice worms in here, actually. Okay. What do we have under here? Some good potatoes. And that's the starting one right there. Wonder if you could use it again. Another nice size worm. Hey, it looks what? Nice. Good nice here. Okay. Here. Good. Take. Okay. That's it. Right. We thank the Lord for the great potato harvest and actually the whole general harvest that we had this year. It was phenomenal, and Angel and I are so blessed. There's some more trying to grow. It's a little one. It's above the ground. We don't want to save that one. Here's a nice one. I'm going to give you a rundown of what we got. We got some really nice potatoes on both varieties, the red and the, I think they're Yukon Gold. I'm not quite sure. And but we didn't get a high quantity. So we got a few. There's a couple things I'm going to attribute this to. One is we didn't get a lot of rain this fall. We were actually very dry. So putting city water down, everybody knows, or I guess well water, city water, nothing works like rainwater. The ground itself seemed to produce pretty well, so I'm happy with that. So what would I change? The question was, what would this work to get 2 harvests? The answer is yes. You can get 2 harvests. They will grow. The other question was, will they grow even if they don't blossom? Will potatoes produce? And the answer is yes. The reason is because when you cut off the eye to plant, you're not actually taking a seed and planting it. You're actually taking an existing root. So this tree, or excuse me, this potato may have been, I mean, it could be actually 1,000 years old, and you could keep cutting from that root and regrowing. It does not need to have a blossom to reproduce.
Genetically, the plant would be also identical because it is just a root cutting, and it could be quite old. So that's what's really interesting about this, is a seed potato is not a seed. It is just a root cutting.
So that's what we learned from that. That means you can grow even in limited seasons. You just got to make sure it stays wet. And a lot of times it doesn't stay wet in the fall. It kind of dries out. So what would I do next year? Well, one is at the end of July, I think the timing was right. So at the end of the July, plant them, but have plants that are already 3 weeks started ahead of time, ready to go in the ground. So put the sulfur on the potatoes that you're planting, the seed potatoes. They're really not seeds, but that's what we call them. Get those in the ground maybe a month ahead started, even in pots. Get them started so that way they are activated, ready to go. Then get them in the ground and make sure they stay watered. I think you'll have better luck. Anyhow, thank you for sticking with me this whole time to see if it would work. I know it's a freezing cold day, but you stuck with me this long. You can plant potatoes just fine and get a second harvest. So keep that in mind. You might be able to, this is even up in I think we're in a 7 on the climate here. So we're a pretty cold climate up here in northern Ohio. Take care. God bless. Have a great day. And we're going to start pulling out these fence posts and the cattle panel.
You can stick around if you want, but we're getting our gardens in the fall set up for spring planting.
Keep lift.
I am. I'm like going sideways. And just had to do a second time.
Yeah.
In this bed, we're getting ready to plant our garlic. Garlic you have to plant in the fall because it actually takes quite a while for it to mature and grow. So I think they say it takes about 9 months. So you plant that in the fall, it stays in the ground all winter, it starts growing in the spring. Not only in this garden did we have the cattle panel and the fence post, we also have the ground cover. So we used ground cover to make sure we didn't have weeds, and it really does work. But it also makes it more difficult in the fall to finish cleaning up. You just can't take a tractor over it or something to knock it down. You actually have to pull out like the sunflowers and the corn, and then you can roll up the ground cover. You could also probably just leave the ground cover, but you'll probably have weeds starting to grow on top of it each year. After we rolled up the ground cover, now it's time to start putting on the manure and the wood chips that will absorb into the soil, and the worms will be able to process that all winter long. And we also, right here, you can see the stuff from the garden is actually piled up to decompose.
Is the fence usable for next year? All the stuff growing through it? All right. The rest of that's over there will go on this one.
I have two covers. One over there with cucumbers were, and then the one where the rocks
What needs to come up?
were. Cover, ground cover.
Oh, okay. And we need to pull up the broccoli, right?
I don't know how easy or hard it can be to uproot huge, so it might be hard.
It must be a cold weather plant because he says fine.
Oh yeah,
Okay. Look how big those vines are.